Hi everyone, it is Carlin here at May Blossom Design, and I am throwing some more Christmas trees. So not only is Christmas in July, but it's going to be in August too. So today I'm going to show you how I'm going to make some Christmas tree tea light holders, and hopefully they help you out if you want to make some, and hopefully they inspire you to make some of your own. So let's get started, let's get to the wheel, and I'm going to show you how to make some Christmas tree tea light holders. Okay, so these trees will be made today with Plainsman 340S. You can use any clay that you want or that you're comfortable with, but today I am using 340S. These are going to be a closed form. I'm going to throw them closed form, and then when we trim them, I will show you how to make them into the tea light holders. So let's get started. So obviously you just cone and center like you would everything else. Now, I'm not making them any specific size. They're just kind of going to be what they are when they come out, because I'm going to make them all different. So, or all similar, but all different. So then just drill down. You don't want to keep your base too thick because it's not necessary, but whatever you're comfortable with. If you like trimming, by all means, leave your base a bit thicker, but you don't have to leave it that thick. And you will notice that I am not throwing with a bat, because throwing a closed form is the easiest thing to take off of the wheel. There we go. Okay, so then you just want to make sure you also compress your base, or the top of your form, just because you will get like a rim. I don't know how to explain a ring, but it creates a weak spot. You just want to make sure that you compress that out. So just slow down your wheel and then start pulling up. Keeping in mind that you want to go towards the center every time, and then compress your base or compress your rim. Because you obviously want to make a cone shape. And you also have to keep in mind that you are collaring in, so you want to make sure that your walls are nice and even, because that will affect how your walls collar. You're going to have a harder time collaring something in if your walls aren't even, because they will just collapse on themselves. So I'm just about ready to collar in. I didn't mention, I guess. I'm using various amounts of clay. So basically anything from like 1¼ pounds, 1½. I'm throwing some with 2 pounds of clay today. So kind of just all over the place. It all just depends on how big you want to make them. The bigger you want them, the more clay you have to use, obviously. So I don't want super large ones. I want like kind of not the centerpiece size, but I just want something small that'll go on a table or a desk or something like that, that can stay just a nice small size. So then when you're collaring in, you just want to make sure that you have even pressure on all the sides that you're touching. I like to do like the triangle, so make sure that you have a triangle, and you'll keep things a lot easier, and I find that I can keep things a little bit more center when I do the triangle method. And I also want to pull all the way from the bottom to the top. Now I feel that I have a little bit of a So I just had a little bit of a thin spot. So I'm just going to keep on collaring. Keep on pulling from the bottom all the way up. Sometimes your rim may get a little wonky from not compressing, but just keep going and make sure that when you are doing a Christmas tree, you're giving it this cone shape, not and then this, because you want to keep the base obviously wider than the top because you're making a Christmas tree. So just always keep that in mind. And then slowly just keep going. Slow and steady wins the collaring race, I say. And I'm not a professional at this, so I'm not perfect at it, but I'm definitely getting better. But yeah, you just collar up, you slowly pull, 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 and then you collar. I like to take some of the excess slip off my hand and get my hands nice and wet so that I don't have drag, because that can cause things to go a little bit wonky too. So yeah, just pull from the bottom and then slowly collar in, and then eventually you close off your top. And then just smooth it out all the way. So then we're going to take our trimming tool and trim off any excess. It's easier to trim now than later. So then after you've trimmed it, again, like I said, it's easier to trim your excess now than later. So just get a wooden rib or a firm rib and just really compress your walls, and it'll help define that cone shape, and it'll help even your walls a bit. I have a bit of a divot in mine, so it will help pull. There you go, so you have the tree shape. The base isn't as wide as I would like it, but so then I'm also going to add some ridges with my rib. So then you just wet it, and I just go gently, and it works really well at this stage because the closed form really helps with it. So then just go to the next one. Just keep wetting your rib so you don't get drag. And don't not be firm with it. You do want to have ridges, but the clay can handle it. So, I mean, don't push right through, obviously, but you do need to push a little bit. And then I just like to go down and smooth it out. And there you go. Then I also take my rib and I just make sure that everything's good. Then I just sponge off anything extra. I smooth out each one of these little ridges. There you go. And then last but not least, when I just create a little base, because I like the way that it looks when it looks like it's a little bit elevated. There we go. And if you didn't want to do this, you wanted to do more carving and stuff like that, just do it. Just use your rib, compress your walls, and then you totally can be done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wipe my hands off. So then all you're going to do, because like I said it earlier, a closed form is the easiest thing to take off the wheel. You're just going to take your wire tool, cut your piece, make sure your hands are dry, and pick it right up off the wheel. Works perfect. It's not going to lose its form. Wonderful. So it is now been a couple days since we've thrown our Christmas trees. And like I mentioned before, you will need a chuck to trim them. So I have made a chuck. Now I am going to be posting a video on how I make and store my chuck, so keep a lookout for that. But if you don't have a chuck, they're super easy to make, but you will need one. So anyway, I made this chuck, so now I'm just going to attach it to the base, or to the wheel head, I guess you could say. Not with a whole bunch of water, but yeah. I prefer the suction method. You can use lugs by all means if that's what you're comfortable with, but I don't like lugs. So then just ensure that your chuck is centered and has a good suction. And then we're gonna start trimming. So now these have been sitting for a couple days now. Actually, that works perfect because it sits right in the groove of one of the lines. I didn't plan it like that, but that works pretty good. So now you can also use lugs to really attach it, but because this is sitting in the grooves, I'm not going to do that. I'm not even going to worry about that. So these tea light holders, they're also going to have a flat base. Now I hope I'm totally in the frame here, but they're going to have a flat base. So I'm not putting a foot on, I'm not doing any of that. But what I am going to do, if you have one of these little turny things that helps put pressure on the top while not distorting your piece, they're really handy. I can try to find a link to where I got these and link it in the description below, but I can't make a promise because I haven't seen these in a while. So, and I may not have a link to where I got them, but we'll see. I'll see if I can find them and I'll link them if I can, because they are very handy. So basically I am just going to trim the sides. And then I'm going to just ensure that my base is level. So yeah, like I said, I'm not doing any, I'm not creating any feet or anything like that. And because these are hard, like you can't flip them, your base may still be a little on the soft side of leather hard. And don't forget that because this is a closed form, your middle may seem a little bit puffed out. That's normal, but just make sure that you don't push too hard or that you don't go too, like you don't trim too deep, because that will create a different problem for you and you will have too small of a base. So then another thing that I'm gonna do with these, because I am leaving, the base is quite thick. Like, yeah, I'm gonna just do a touch more because I definitely don't want to go through the base, but I do know that it is quite thick. So I am going to do a little bit on the side here just to create a little bit of elevation so that when it's sitting flat on the table, it looks like it's elevated, but you don't actually have a foot. So then I am going to kind of burnish a little bit, make sure everything's nice and smooth. I will also use my finger for this part too, just because it's kind of got some little pieces in here. You can use, I have some really soft ribs, so you could use really soft ribs on those pieces that are kind of like deep in the grooves here. Like, see, this one has, like, it's just soft. So you can take that and do your little grooves if you really want to get in there and get them burnished. Don't push too hard, because like I said, these do take they dry a little bit uneven, mostly because of the fact that you can't really flip them, so they dry kind of wonky. And then just check all these pieces, make sure they look nice. I also use a rib on the very bottom as well. So it may not be perfectly flat now, but once you start carving, because I will be carving in here, once you start carving, this base will totally flatten out, because right now you're putting pressure on it, so the air is kind of bubbling at the top. So just keep that in mind. Like I said, you don't want to, it looks like it's bubbling up, or that you have a lot in the base right here, but you probably don't. So just keep that in mind when you're trimming. So yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Again, if I can find these ribs, I will link them in the description below, because they do work really well, like I said, for inside these little grooves. Okay, so I have switched the angle. I am making these for tea lights, for artificial tea lights. I'm not making them for traditional tea lights with like a flame. Maybe in a different video I may do something different. Maybe that might be a slight spoiler, we'll see. But for right now, these are going to be for artificial tea lights. So these tea lights, and the majority of artificial tea lights, are 1.5 inches in diameter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut myself a 2-inch hole. So that should allow me enough leeway for shrinkage, so that you can basically just pick this tree up and set it on top of the candle, and then yeah, should be easy peasy. So their center, I can see it. You know what, I'm gonna do 1.25 inches for this one. Maybe 1 1/8 inches. So all I did was I just did half of the width that I wanted from center, because obviously it's going to create a circle, so it's going to be double. So all I'm going to do is put my needle tool down where I did my cut, and then keep constant pressure. My bases, I found, are a little bit thicker. Oh, this one's not. And then once you've cut it, just pop it out. Oh, my bases are quite thick, which is fine. Then I just take my loop tool and I just clean it. Don't worry about anything that gets on the inside, because we'll clean that out later. And I just round my edge out just to make it look a little bit cleaner. And I also angle the inside. Again, just to give it a little bit of a cleaner appearance, but that's personal preference. If you don't want to do it, It's totally fine. So then, just like the top, I do burnish the bottom just to keep it nice and clean and nice and soft, so you kind of skip the step of sanding once it comes out. As long as this part's nice and clean, that part probably won't have to do. There we go. So now you just take your piece out. If there's anything left in here, like, I don't know if it's really sunny in here, there's little bits in there. Those are a lot easier to get out when it is either bone dry or a lot drier than this. So don't stress about those. Wait until it's dry. And then what we'll do is we're going to take the chuck off and we're going to flip our pot, and then we're going to do the same thing but without the chuck. You're just going to want to go really slow for this part. So then just take your ribs, because we're not trimming anything off at this point. We're just burnishing and making things a little bit smoother. And if you go really slow, you don't need lugs. If you're more comfortable with putting some lugs, by all means, please do so. But because this piece is quite heavy, I don't have to do that. And then just continue to burnish and smooth things out. At this point, I do try not to use a sponge, only because it sometimes creates, because this is speckled clay, it sometimes will create more problems, like for cleanup, than it does anything else. So yeah, just continue with that until you're happy with how they look. Okay, so now I'm a little bit happier with that. I'm going to take my harder rib and just clean up. So yeah, it's just kind of a back and forth, using your fingers, using your ribs, just to create, or just to give all those clean lines. Okay, so I'm super happy with that. And yeah, I'm just gonna finish trimming all the other pieces, and then I'll come back and I will show you how I'm gonna carve these into tea light holders. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, these ones are just gonna get a hole punch, like simple hole punch. Now, these are the best hole punches that I have found. I will leave a link for them in the description below. They have like 5 or 6 different sizes on them, and the clay doesn't get stuck. It's easy to pull in. They're nice and sharp. They work great. So I will link them in the description below. So yeah, I'm just gonna go from largest to smallest all the way up. I'm gonna leave the last 2, I think, maybe 3. Depends on how far I get, but 2 for sure. 2 for sure on the top. So yeah, let's get started. So we'll take the biggest one on the bottom. See, so easy to pull them out. Okay, so now I just like to go through just anything that can be cleaned up. Just like to go in there and do that. I leave the inside. I don't know if you can see the little bits. Those are a lot easier to clean when they are bone dry. I promise you, so much easier. So then I just take my sponge and I clean up any spots. Clean up any spots that have marks. Okay, so there we go. Now, let's give it the ultimate test. Perfect. So, I mean, it's bright outside, so you're not going to see it great, but you get the idea. Super cute. But yeah, I think these turned out fantastic. Or reason for what I want to do. I just know that I want to carve some like ovally designs. Now, I may also add some extra carving, but I know that I obviously want the tea light to show through, so I do need to cut actual holes. So I think, no, I'm going to start at the bottom. So I think maybe I'm going to try like a wood grain type look, but with oval. Yeah. I have, like I said, I have the design in my head. Whether it works or not, we shall find out. Now my walls are quite thick, so this may be a mess. My gosh, are they ever thick? Keep in mind, don't throw your walls this thick. Like I said, my walls are quite thick, but we're just going to carry on. It'll be fine. So now I'm just going to clean this front off. Just get your sponge. Even it out. Now you're probably going to want to paint, like for me, I'm going to use a paintbrush to clean in here, I think. So I can get right into all the spaces. Okay, so now I'm going to take the paintbrush I'm just going to go in here and clean all these spaces up and make them a lot more even. So this time I am going to clean this out because there is quite a bit in there. So I'm going to try to get some of it out. So then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my needle tool, clear out all the little bits. So now I'm just going to go in again. Make sure that's good. I am going to do the inside just to get any marks I can off of it. Underneath there. And then I am again. This one's just a little bit more finicky than the first one, but I am going to go in with my paintbrush. Make sure all of these lines are smooth, because it makes it a big difference when you do your glaze application if your lines are smooth or your carvings are smooth. There we go. So now, see, looks beautiful. Now, if you did want to do some extra carving, you definitely could go in between here and you could for sure give it a more like wood-like appearance. But I kind of like it just like this. So I think this one, I'm just gonna leave it just like that. But yeah, that was 2 ways that I am making tea light Christmas trees this year. I do have one other Christmas tree tutorial that I will be putting out. I don't know when. I'm still waiting for the supplies to come, so I can't give a definite date on that, but it will be before Christmas. Unfortunately, this wasn't a start to finish video just because it has been quite rainy, stormy, and very humid outside. So I didn't want to run the risk of starting my kiln and the power going out, because that is a really good possibility these days. So unfortunately, it's just how to make them. I'm hoping that eventually I will be able to do a kiln unloading, because eventually I want to run my kiln again. But I have to wait until it's not so hot, not so humid, not so stormy. I think these turned out great. So if you did make these, or if you're going to make these, let me know. I want to know what they look like. My whole goal of this channel is to inspire people to be more creative, make more things, and just have fun. And I hope that that is what I am achieving. And I hope that I can inspire more people to make more things like this. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know down in the comments below. I will answer them best I can. And any tools that I can find that I mentioned in this video, I will link them in the description below if I can find them. Yeah, otherwise, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, because it does help me be able to create more content for you guys. And yeah, I appreciate you all watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys.